Hey, Frank Paris here. This is a quick explanation for what I'm doing with a piece of electronic magic equipment that I have. Anybody who knows anything about mentalism is there's a lot of electronic mentalism out there. And I've over the years used some electronic mentalism in my shows, whether it be, let me just change my glasses here. Hold on a second. I got my reading glasses on. I changed my act a number of times. I mix it up with magic and comedy and kid shows and lectures and whatever. And I also um, I use some electronic mentalism magic. And I'm very selective in what I pick, what I buy. I mean, there are companies out there that I would recommend, like Pro Mystic. Craig Fischetti is very innovative as far as his electronic mentalism magic is concerned. I would recommend Illuminati Magic and Nathan Buzza because his magic again is nicely made and works. Uh, a fellow named Hugo Shelley a number of years ago came out with a trick called Insight Pro, and it involved a reader. You mentalism people who know what I'm talking about know that he created a reader and he created a deck of cards for the reader to read. And you would use that the reader would scan the cards and you would know what card was being scanned by the simple fact that you would get a cue, you'd get a sound cue. Of course, you'd have to download an app and everything else. And it wasn't complicated. It was just something that came out and it was innovative. And I selected that particular product and I bought it. But he went out of business a number of years ago. Maybe it's a couple of 2, 3 years ago. I'm not sure exactly. And a fellow named Nathan Buzza took over for that product. Somehow they came to some kind of agreement, or I'm not even sure how that worked. But now Illuminati Magic and Nathan Buzzer are making the same, not the same reader, and a more improved reader. Uh, and the new improved reader is a little bit more money than the original Hugo Shelley reader. And of course, you get a deck of cards with it if you want, or you can get some kind of a queuing system that you can buy with Nathan Buzzy. He makes something called a P3 display module, so you can have somebody pick a card and you know what the card is based on a display that you have, a peek device. So that's not what the story is about. The story is about the original Insight Pro. Since it's a couple of 2, 3 years old, the batteries probably after, if you've used it in a show a number of times, get to the point where they don't work anymore or they don't hold a charge or something like that. So that's what this is about. What this is about is replacing the battery in a Hugo Shelley Insight Pro reader. This is the module that you get. Now you get this module, and the module is shrink wrapped. It's all shrink wrapped, and you've got a little charging port here. It's a USB charging port, and you would plug in the USB cable to your charging uh, transformer or whatever it is, or just a USB charging uh, female input, and you would charge your reader, and it would be ready for the show. So the thing is, and I'm going to just give you a little close up. After 3 years of using it in a show, it probably, the battery starts to go if it doesn't go, and it doesn't hold the charge. And that's precisely what's happened with um, this particular module. Okay, this particular battery is no longer holding a charge. So I had some 3.7. By the way, this is a 3.7 volt, 650 milliamp battery. That's not important to know. I mean, other than the fact that if you're going to reorder this, you want to reorder this, and you could go a little higher. I've got an exact replica of this coming, only it's not 650 milliamp, it's 850 milliamp. I figured it's going to fall, the milliamps are going to fall within a range that it's safe to use with this. A lot of people turn around and they buy a battery that is exactly like the battery that they used before, okay, in their whatever unit it is, and it works and it keeps the charge and everything else. And then when it stops working, it stops working. But it might have worked longer or stayed kept the item, the electronic item, active longer if the milliamps were a little bit. You had more milliamps, like instead of 650, you say 850. So, bearing that in mind, I just want to move away for a second. And there are props that I use 9-volt batteries, props that I build that I use 9-volt batteries. And I never knew that in some of these props, the batteries had low milliamps. Okay, some of the off-the-shelf 9-volt batteries you buy are 350 milliamps or 450 milliamps. I think Duracell has 5 to 600 milliamps. I found this new 9-volt battery, which is the same size as a regular 9-volt battery, called KRATAX. They're on Amazon. You get 4 of these along with a charger, which is great. These are rechargeable uh, 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 lithium-ion polymer batteries, and they are 850 milliamps. Now, if you've got a prop that you use that uses a 9-volt battery, I've got a couple. You know, I've got a barking dog and an inverted barking. I actually have 2 inverted barking dogs. I always buy one as a back. I always have something that got to get a backup for it because you never know. You're at a show and you go to test it and it don't work. So anyway, these KRATAX, KRATAX batteries, these 9-volt batteries, you can find up on Amazon. They're on Amazon. I think they're about. You get 4 for $30 along with the charge. It used to be 25, but now because of the supply chain problems, I think it's up about $5. It may be more than that, maybe even $35. I'm not sure. But for these 9-volt batteries, these lithium-ion polymer batteries, and the fact that you've got an 850 milliamp battery, it's going to give you more strength and more power in the 9-volt batteries. And I use them in my bird cages, my Delray bird cages. Okay, so my Delray bird cage, okay, uses a 9-volt KRATAX battery, and the reason I use those is because if I'm at a show and I've got it fully charged, I know for sure that I'm going to have enough battery power for performance. You know, okay. So bearing that in mind, let's get back to this. So this is a 650 milliamp 9-volt battery that was attached to the Hugo Shelley reader. Okay, the one that reads RFID playing cards. Okay, so what I do is I took off the shrink wrap, this shrink wrap that covers the whole thing, and of course there's a USB charging port here. And I said to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a 3 point. By the way, I do have a 850 milliamp uh, uh, battery, a LiPo battery coming tomorrow to replace this 650 milliamp battery. But for now, just for testing purposes, I'm going to use this 850 milliamp battery, okay, which goes to something else. It goes to my key box. I have a Nick Wenger key box, which is another trick I use in the act. This goes to the key box. I'm going to test it by adding a female connection to the reader, like so. And we'll test it that way. And then when the 850 milliamp guy comes in tomorrow from Amazon, I will reconnect one of these to it, and I will have it put on. I will put it on the reader and shrink wrap the whole thing up, and recharge it the way I would normally recharge the battery using the USB port and the supplied cable, or any USB cable. So the reason for that is I'm going to get more juice out of the out of the battery, and within limits, okay, the milliamps is not going to hurt the reader, even though it's 850 milliamps. I could have even gone higher. I could have gone to 950 or 1,000 milliamps. And this just happens to be a test thing that goes to something else. I could probably wire it up permanently to this, and then put it on the bottom, because the reading mechanism coil is right here. The thing that reads the RFID key is right here. So if I place this on the bottom, okay, I have no problem. And then of course I shrink wrap this after I've connected it. There would be no problem in reading the RFID cards. It wouldn't obstruct anything, because the coils that do the reading are on the top here, not on the bottom. There's nothing actually on the bottom of this side, but on the top of this side of the reader, you can see there are coils, and those are the coils that read the RFID cards and then sends a signal, 8 of diamonds, 3 of hearts, 4 of clubs, to my Mystic box. Okay, I've actually got the cards in here too, so we'll take those out. Okay, the reader is embedded in the back of the box. Okay, and the reader is in the back of the box, so that once the reader is in there, on this piece of cardboard that has rubber band, okay, I'll slide the whole nonsense inside the box, and I activate it, I'll be able to read the cards. Now, a couple of things. If you own a Hugo Shelley reader and you own a Hugo Shelley deck of cards, and it's been sitting in the drawer for a year or two, I have a couple of friends who have it and they don't use it. So actually, your battery's going to die, and when it dies, it may deteriorate too at the same time. And polymer batteries are like just regular batteries. They can conceivably explode and screw up all your electronics inside the shrink wrap when you have it. This here can actually, do what some of the 9-volt batteries do, or the pen-like batteries that you have. They can be a white crusty or a brown crusty kind of junk all over it. So I decided I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to take the female portion and stick it on here for testing purposes, solder it on, and then test the unit, maybe charge it up and test the unit, charging it here, okay? But then the way I'm putting this together is not the way it was here. Here it was hardwired in, okay, and you couldn't take the battery off. So I disconnected the 2 wires from the battery, from the board wires, so that I could add a battery pack with the male or female connector. So that if this happened in the future, I could just take the shrink wrap off, unplug the battery from the reader itself, the reader circuit board, and then just put a new battery in, okay? Because these batteries come, like I said, and the one I'm getting, by the way, does have the male connector like this. All right, so all I'll have to do is plug it in. But this is just for testing purposes. So again, if you've got a Hugo Shelley Insight Pro deck of cards on reader, and you are losing the charge, or you haven't used it in a while and you want to use it, you will undoubtedly find it to be a situation where you got to send it to somebody who knows a little bit about electronics. But basically all you really need to do is take the shrink wrap off, if you've got any kind of electronic skill, cut it with like a cuticle scissor, it comes right off, and gently pull off the shrink wrap. All right, and you'll see this battery engaged on the bottom, on this side, like so. You just take that battery and gently cut off the wires so that you've got these 2 wires that are coming from the board hanging out, okay? And then you're going to take the 2 wires from the battery pack that you're getting, okay? In this particular case, I bought these big battery packs, as I said, for my key box, my Nick Wenger key box, which is another trick. And all I'm going to do is add, I had it here. I had I'm going to add this piece to this unit right here, and then I'll be able to plug in and unplug the battery pack, okay, that this size is coming in tomorrow. I'll be able to unplug it from the back of the board anytime I need to change the battery because it's gone. It's not holding a charge anymore. So that'll increase the life of the trick. Now, when you're talking about, I think it's running between $500 and $600 for a used Hugo Shelley Insight Pro. I think I saw one on eBay for $586. And I think that's new, but it's new old stock, which means you don't know how long that battery is going to last or how long it's going to hold a charge. So if you charge it all up, you charge it up the night before, and then you bring it to a show, and then all of a sudden you go to turn on the unit, the reader, to install either on your wrist, because some guys like to use it, swiping the cards that are picked, and that, and getting the cue from a visual peak device. If you want to do it, if you want to take that chance on that reader, you got a problem. You're going to get very frustrated. You spent all this money and your battery's not holding a charge. So basically what I'm telling you to do is with a cuticle scissor, cut off, if you own the Hugo Shelley Insight Pro and you haven't used it in a while, or you just bought it because it was new old stock, or you bought it because somebody was selling it with the cards, just test it out, make sure it works, and then charge it up fully overnight, and then the next day, okay, run it. See if it runs for an hour, 45 minutes, or 30 minutes. Because usually we all set up our shows 35 or 45 minutes before, and you want to make sure that you're not in the middle of a show and you go to use a trick and there's no power coming out of the battery that's supposed to be part of the mentalism electronics or the gadgetry electronics that you're using. It's very disappointing, and especially if you're doing it and you're making a presentation and it happens. I'm not talking about a last minute check where you realize you can't charge it fast enough or long enough to get it to work for the show, and you have to not use it in the show. So, and that's basically it. So what I'll probably do is I'll take the new battery I'm getting, which will have the male plug already on it, okay, and I will plug in. It'll have it'll have the male plug on it already, and this will now be connected to this, which is the female. All right, I'll put it on the back of the unit right here. It'll fit perfectly, and then I'll shrink wrap it all back together again, and just use the USB port to charge it all the time. But I'll have a fresh new battery, okay? And this is not a piece of electronics you just want to throw in the garbage, not especially if you spent $400 or $500 on the unit, So that's basically it. It's just a way of conserving or keeping things that you have. And this is not rocket science. Believe me, this is not. We're not doing any surface mounting. We're not going in here and pulling off a chip and putting something else back in there. All we're doing is we're replacing the battery on this unit. They should make these things, and I know for a fact with some of the units that I bought from Pro Mystic that you can replace the batteries, okay? If they're making it so you can't replace the batteries, then they want you to buy a new one. Or they want you to send it back to them for them to repair, to put a new battery in there. And if you have any kind of skill when it comes to electronics, you should know that you can do it yourself. All right? So that's basically it. This is about changing the battery from the old, new old stock Hugo Shelley Insight Pro reader and deck of cards combination to a new battery, okay? This is just a test. I'm just testing with this unit right now just to see if it'll work. Frank Paris, over and out. Thank you very much for watching.